guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. This week I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about modifications to a car. Now, one thing that I get asked all the time is, if I do this to my car, does it help maintain value, does it hurt value, or does it increase value? And I would say that a lot of different modifications are incredibly subjective. So if we look at our Challenger, my Challenger that I sold a few months ago, but if you look at that car, when I bought it, it was completely stock, all blacked out. I would almost suggest that unless I'm a 17-year-old kid, it probably hurt the value, what that guy did to the car, right? He spray painted the gas cap cover. You know, it was a beautiful chrome color. He spray painted it black. He took a spray tint and tinted the taillights. He kind of blacked out a few things on the grill, overspray all over the headlights and things like that. And then he tinted the windows super, super dark and put a tint strip that covered about a third of the windshield across the top. So with that in mind, right, I knew that there were a few things that I needed to do to the car just to get it back to what it's supposed to be worth, so to speak. Some people go out of their way to pay money to tint their windows, to tint their taillights, to do those tint strips, to paint different body panels, different parts, different accessories and things like that. I understand that, and I'm not saying that what he did was wrong, because for him it was totally right. But for the general public, there are things that you should or should not do to your car, which then in turn impact the resale value or the overall value of the car. Okay, so let's continue talking about that Challenger. Now, I painted the wheels silver. It gives it a much more universal look. Not everybody likes black wheels. I removed the tint strip. I'm going to argue that that's probably the best free modification I did to that car, because it made the usability of the windshield so much greater. It lightened up the inside without compromising the tint on the side windows. So that was an easy one. I upgraded the headlights. I fixed a few things. What else did I do? I added the racing stripes. So the racing stripes are going to be the one piece to that car that I would suggest maybe hindered resale value. If you remember my situation trying to sell that car, I didn't have to sell it for any reason. I wanted to take advantage of the high market. The car market was extremely high at that moment, and I got a really good deal on the car. I ended up selling it for a ton more than I bought it for. I shouldn't say owed for it, that I bought it for. Part of it was a trade, but that trade worked out so that I was able to sell it, and all that is said and done. A car that I paid, $8,200 for, I walked away with about $15,000, maybe a touch more. Now I was into that car for more than the $8,200 because of all the additional parts. So let's just, for round numbers sake, say I was into the car $9,500. And at the end of the day, I, when it was all said and done, had over $15,000 in my pocket. I made $5,500 or over 50% profit on that car. So that's a pretty good deal. And if I didn't put those racing stripes on that car and just left it a solid black car, honestly, it probably would have sold faster. So there's times where sometimes you just sort of have to compromise. And if there's something that you like about the car, leave it alone. Like this car behind me, I think it looks perfect with those stripes, but not everyone does. They made a lot of Mustangs in the 60s that did not have stripes, and they sold just fine. A Shelby's a little bit different. To me, it needs to have the stripes. I think it just differentiates it. It makes it look more like the Shelby was designed to look. But again, that's super subjective. There are people that want a solid color car, and I get that. And so if I listed that car for sale, maybe it sells faster or maybe it sells slower because of those stripes. There are performance mods. There are also maintenance mods. There are all sorts of modifications you can do to a vehicle. And so I think about my wife's Mach-E. Very first thing we did was we took it to a detailer, had them completely PPF the front end of that car. And PPF just stands for paint protection film. All it is a clear film, like a window tint, so to speak, but it's completely clear, and it's designed to cover body panels on a car. It helps prevent rock chips, sun fading, scratches, all of those things. I have it on my Audi as well. Now, that's the first mod we did to that car. At the same time, we had the entire car ceramic coated. We also had the windows tinted. So all of those things together, yeah, they weren't cheap on top of the purchase price of a brand new car, But if I was to sell that car, those 3 features, generally speaking, I can get my money back on those things. If they cost me $2,500, yeah, maybe I don't get all $2,500 back, but maybe I get 2,000 of it back, right? Because the next guy is probably going to want to do those same things. And if they're not going to, they already don't see the value in it. But someone who, like myself, when I bought my R8, it already had PPF on the front end. I would have paid to have that done. So to me, having it already built into the price, already on the car, I don't have to separate from my car and give it to somebody to do it for me. It's just done. I'm willing to pay for that. And so that was built into the price. Some of the more subjective modifications are things like sound systems, wheels, suspension, exhaust, maybe engine mods, maybe other visual mods, right? I mean, think about the classic Walmart automotive guy, right? You go to Walmart and you buy every stick-on vent, every stick-on emblem, every stick-on whatever, and you just put them all over your car, right? We've all seen those guys, right? And there's whatever, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But I'm telling you right now, if you're that guy, you're hurting the resale value of your car a lot. You want to really generalize stuff. Use things that you like, right? Wheels are subjective. Buy wheels you like. And then when you go to sell the car, maybe take those wheels off. Keep the stock ones. Or buy a real simple, timeless looking design that everybody loves. Not everybody has good taste. Let's be honest, right? There are things in my life that people, like you guys probably think cringeworthy. I don't know. Maybe you hated the blue stripes on the black car. That's okay. That's okay. I liked it. My daughter liked it. The design was that was going to be her car, so I let her pick those out. Things change. That's okay. But realize a lot of things are subjective. But things like PPF, window tinting, what else did I say? Ceramic coating is another really good one. Those are things that you should do for preventative maintenance, but because it is a modification to your car, you can really try to get those dollars back when you sell that car later on. Window tinting is usually a couple $100. Even if you don't get that money back, as long as you're enjoying it and you're using it and getting the value out of it, it's probably okay. Wheels and tires are super, super common. You're gonna buy wheels and tires. You're gonna use those tires. Those tires might be bald, and then you decide to sell the car. Now, there's still some value in the wheels, but if the tires are flat or dead or bald or any of those things, there's really no extra value. So that's when it probably makes sense just to swap your old wheels and tires back on and sell the car more stock. And then there's just, like I said, wasteful mods, random things that aren't necessary. Maybe they make the car look too busy. Maybe they cheapen the look of the car. Maybe they do something non-functional. That's that. We've all had car seat covers in our cars, right? We've all had that old beater car that has torn bolsters and whatever, and we buy a seat cover for it. When you go to sell that car, take those covers off. Nobody wants old, worn out, used seat covers. Personally speaking, I'd rather see the damage on the factory cloth seat or the factory leather seat. And then if I'm gonna cover them with seat covers, I'm gonna go buy my own covers. I'm not gonna reuse, the old ones that you've sweated on or whatever. So, those kind of common sense things. But you'd be shocked to see how often I'll be browsing Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, and I will see a 2004 Honda Civic with, cracked leather, fake leather seat covers on it that actually look probably worse than the seats did underneath. Or they're stained, or there's cigarette burns in it. And then in the ad it says, never been smoked in. Okay. So things like that, things of that nature, that tacky kind of approach. Again, everybody has their own style, everybody has their own likes and dislikes, and you may totally disagree with everything I'm saying right now, and that is okay. We're allowed to have our own opinions. It is a free country for now. So all that to say, it's okay. If you disagree, that's all right. I'm just telling you the way I think it should be, and and I've been pretty darn successful at buying and selling vehicles. So I'd like to think that my opinion is okay, right? It might not always be right, but generally speaking, I'm gonna suggest that I have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. There's never been a time I've had a project car that I didn't make money on. There were a couple times I broke even and then a hair, but I've never lost money on a project car ever in my entire life. Every car I've bought, I've turned a profit on. Might have been 20 bucks, but I've turned a profit. Other preventative maintenance types of modifications, do those transmission services, do those oil changes, do those radiator flushes and brake cleanings and all those things. Again, as a prospective buyer, I'd much rather see receipts that said this car has brand new brakes, brand new tires, a transmission flush, all those things. Because then in my mind, I can rest a little bit easier knowing two things. First and foremost, I don't have to do those things. They've already been done, right? I can buy the car and enjoy it day one. But secondly, I have a lot more faith in you as the seller that you maintained and cared about the car. It was not just something that parked out on the street, you beat it up, you drove it to work, you bumped a curb here and there, whatever, and now you're selling it, right? When I can see that someone has taken the time to really care about the car, maintain the car, properly treat the car well, I'm more inclined to want to buy it. Now, that is when I'm buying a daily driver. If I'm buying a project car, honestly, I'm looking for the best deal I can, so I might look for things that haven't been done and then use those as negotiation pieces. I might say, hey, sir, I would love to buy your BMW, but it needs an oil change. It needs a transmission flush. Looking at the tires, they need, new tires or new wheels. Or, I know the differential needs to be serviced, or I need the radiator needs to be flushed at 90,000 miles. Because it needs all those things, instead of 7,000, I'd like to offer you 5, because I know all that stuff's gonna cost me $1,500. Whatever, right? So you can use that to your advantage, both selling a car, do all the things and do them well and do them right and do them in such a universal way that everybody who sees the car is gonna like it and want it. But then when you're buying, do the opposite, right? Find cars that need all that stuff. Find the car with the tackiest wheels and the seat covers and needs all the maintenance, because you're gonna get a good deal on it. Nobody else wants to buy it. So you buy it, you remove the seat covers, you throw new wheels and tires on there, you do the oil change, you do all those things. And now all of a sudden, even if you're only out a couple $100s on top of the purchase price, you've got a heck of a car that in theory you can flip immediately. So performance mods versus maintenance mods, pay more attention to the maintenance. The performance stuff is all subjective. Again, wheels and tires. Do you want a low profile tire, or do you want a fatter piece of rubber on there? Do you want loud exhaust, or do you want deep rumbling, or do you just want a quiet factory exhaust? There's choices to be made. Do you want to see through your windows at night? That's gonna dictate how dark you tint your windows, if you tint them at all, okay? Do you want to have bolts and nuts and things rattle off your car? That's gonna dictate how loud your sound system is, okay? So all those things factor in, those all matter. And again, everybody's opinion is different, but feel free to ask questions down below. Comment, ask those questions. I'd love to hear banter. I mean, you know what? If you love a loud sound system, but you want quiet exhaust, that's okay. That's all you, whatever. Some people want loud exhaust and they don't care about a sound system because all they're doing is listening to the exhaust. Guilty. That's me in my R8. I barely ever use the radio. Maybe on my commute to work or something, but for the most part, I'm listening to the exhaust. I love the sound the engine makes and the exhaust makes, and so I don't want a radio. My Mustang, this car right here, the first 7 years I owned it, didn't even have a radio in it. Didn't even have a radio. So I'm totally guilty of that. I don't need a great sound system, but all that to say, when I'm driving around in my wife's Mach-E, that thing's got a great sound system right from the factory. It's got a Bang & Olufsen sound system, stereo, surround, yada, 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 subwoofer, all the whole nine, all from the factory. That didn't cost me anything extra, it's just there. But there's zero exhaust sound in that car, so the radio matters, right? All this stuff is completely case by case, and all of this stuff is completely debatable. Like I said, you might disagree with me, you might totally agree with me, and that's okay. Either way, I'm never gonna tell you I'm right and you're wrong, but I'm gonna tell you I'm right most of the time. So ask questions. I'm here to help. I wanna be a resource. If you've got a project car and you're trying to sell it, or if you've got a daily driver and you're trying to sell it and it's not going away, send me a picture. I'll tell you why. Happy to help. Other than that, I'm thinking these are the kind of topics, when I get an email or if I talk to somebody at a car show and they ask these kind of questions. That's why I make this video. You know, this video is directed really for two people, and you both know who you are if you watch this. But we kind of talked a lot about this in person, so this is really for everybody else now. But realize there are good quality modifications. There's really shoddy ones. There are things that matter and things that don't. Never do something permanent to the car that, you know, A, is not going to increase its long-term value, or B, you can remove. Because if you can't remove it, again, that might come back to bite you later if and when you try to sell that car. Anything that's bolt-on, do it, right? I mean, that's fine. Do what you like. Just be prepared to unbolt it and undo it later. Air intakes, exhaust, wheels and tires. You know, those are the three really obvious ones. People do that crap all the time, or they'll put a big wing on the back of their car or whatever. If it can't be removed, you know, maybe ask somebody else's opinion too. Do it if you love it, but if you're doing it to increase the value of the car, just pay attention to what you're doing, right? Look around, see what other people are doing. Yeah, think about like second generation Eclipses. Think about the Fast and Furious movie, right? The very first one. Paul Walker is driving that green, it's Kawasaki green Eclipse. That thing has a double-decker aluminum wing on the back, as does his Supra later in the movie. You know, those cars aren't very common anymore. I've always dreamt of having one. For the last 20 plus years, since seeing that movie, I always wanted a GSX. I always wanted an all-wheel drive, turboed Mitsubishi Eclipse. And honestly, I'd paint it Kawasaki green, and I'd put a big, obnoxious aluminum wing on the back, because that's what people do with those cars. That's what the next guy wants to buy. 9 out of 10 of those cars are turning into clones or turning into those kind of things. That's what people want, okay? So you gotta know what generally people are after. But all that to say, like this Mustang, I built it for me. That's not a car I'll sell. I wanted it Acapulco blue. I wanted white racing stripes. I wanted black interior. I didn't do that because I care what the next guy thinks. I did it because that's what I wanted. So you got to know the difference. If you're buying a car as an investment flip or as a project flip or any of those things, just be mindful. Don't overspend. Pay attention to the mods you're doing. Just pay attention and ask questions along the way. So with that, I am done. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, and remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.